Howdy. Welcome to Ausgrave Royalty. I am Justin. So, checking my notes real quick. You can see I'm really prepared on this one. Right. So, I'm continuing this series from More and Gillette, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. We're almost about to wrap it up. I think this might be the last one in the series, excluding some concluding remarks. So it's been a journey. I had to check my schedule to make 100% sure. But yeah, we've been through a lot. Yeah, really hope y'all got some value out of it. As kind of a victory lap, I thought that I would do a video on how I'm doing in terms of looking at it through the lens of King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. As a man, maybe turning the paradigm on myself as an example might be valuable to witness, for better or worse. I took a lot of notes. I want to be as articulate as I can be. To be fair, in archetypes in the body, that was pretty quote heavy. So now it's there's no quotes in this video. I don't think. Just me applying the paradigm, applying the tool that I've spent all this time trying to convey, and seeing what it does for me and what observations can be gleaned from it and all that. So we'll be going over like how the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover are either possessing me or being manifested in a healthy way. And on the one hand, this is incredibly self-involved, and I'm aware of that. On the other hand, I'm just trying to use myself as a guinea pig so that it can be modeled how you might look at yourself with the tool. So, let's start with the King. The King orders one's life. It creates systems that ideally lead to stability, efficiency, and self-respect. A healthy King will also tie in with the other archetypes in specific ways. So I think where I do well with the King is that I have a great respect for boundaries. Others' boundaries as well as my own. I have a video from the last season about narcissism and kind of how boundaries have played, how the struggles with boundaries have played out in my life. Dealing with all that, I think, has taught me a lot about their significance. And I think that you have to have a healthy King. I think that you can have a healthy King but still struggle with boundaries. And we'll get to why. And some of you may already know why, but we'll get to it. I think I also do well with the King whenever I really sink my teeth into something. I mean, I've done comedy, YouTube channel, electronic music. I recently learned how to stream on Twitch just to see how it went. I work in tech, got all these certifications, programming, blah, blah, blah. Made some pixel art earlier. I'm learning Unity right now. I think I know how to utilize the King to make choices about what materials to use and focus on the creation of a project. Not necessarily how to use the tools, but an eye for what tools I might need to grant me my vision, basically, for the project. I mentioned this in my music composition video last season, but I definitely spend more time creating the systems to make the music than actually composing the music itself. Um, I'm obsessed with workflow, and I mentioned in that video that I'd love to have like a button that says like create music. But I've programmed that button with all of my desired outputs, and I know there are programs like that right now, but I mean one catered to specifically my tastes. And yes, I could probably fiddle with those. I haven't gotten around to that yet, like Captain plugins and all that. I know they're in Chord Composer and Scalar. There's tools that I need to learn how to master, and maybe that would help me a lot. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm obsessed with getting from blank project to music that I like that I've created on my own terms, original music from Ausgrave royalty, as fast as possible, basically. And yeah, once the systems are optimized, the output gets much easier. It takes the weight off of having to deal with all the repetitive tasks over and over again, and lets me put my effort into the nuances of the composition where my energy should be, right? The charm is that systems themselves are creative projects, and we talked about some of that in the God video. So I even iterate on those projects to make them even more efficient. And sometimes I get to a point where I actually pump the brakes on systems because I get to a point where I'm like, no, I actually need to do this myself. I actually need to manually do this sort of thing. And I think it's statements like that, knowing when to back off and all that, it's coming from the king. I'm setting the boundaries and creating the space for things to happen, and that's what the king does. I think whenever I have a clear target and a clear vision, then I'm very powerful. So, for instance, there are those, I'm reading my notes right now, there are those that, like Robert Moore has mentioned about himself, actually, who just keep working on something for an infinite amount of hours until it's done. And I'm definitely not like that. My thought is, if I'm working very hard, I should stop, reevaluate, and come up with a more efficient way of getting the problem done. Hard work, if I'm working really hard, then it signals to me something is inefficient. Of course, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but I want to say I think laziness gets a bad rap. I unironically respect laziness. It's why we all have technology. It's why we have a remote control to turn on and off the TV. It's why we have Bluetooth. It's why we have the cloud and streaming services. It's convenient. It's lazy. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's strange, in our rise and grind culture. You can imagine how that conflicts with what I just said right there. Like, if you're doing all this work, maybe take a moment and like think of a system where you could do what you're doing more efficiently, so you can actually enjoy life's pleasures and not have to grind as hard. Again, my thing is, there's no nobility in hard work. That may sound harsh, but if you're working super hard, you are being inefficient, I believe. In more cases, more often than not. Of course, not 100% of the time. But I think working smarter rather than working harder is the way to go. Plus, you're making the world a better place by working smarter, in that once you learn how to do what you're doing, you can teach others what your process. Just a little tangent about that particular point. I do think, like, as I grow older and I'm learning all these new things, I stand by the principle that you have to learn the rules in order to break them. So what works for me is not going to work for anybody else. Even if I spell out steps to become a millionaire, which I'm not, hypothetically. Step 1, blah blah blah. Step 2, blah blah blah. That's a biography of your life and the circumstances that allowed you to take those steps in peace and with good faith. Is everybody going to be able to execute those steps in that order in their lives in that way? I don't think so. Maybe not. It's what pisses me off about fitness and dieting. I think I see theories about all that, like, oh, I can't believe this fitness advice said to do this. Oh, don't listen to him, blah, blah, blah. Each person's theory is very subjective, even though they claim it's the science. Like, whatever works for you, basically. Yes, there's probably going to be movement involved, but I would be attracted more to minimal approaches, not like, oh, you have to do like some calculation or whatever. Just get your ass moving, basically, coming from somebody who's not fit. So don't take that too much. You get what I'm saying. I think one person's fitness theory may be completely correct, but not fit the personality of their client, And it's like that in talk therapy, too. People shop around for therapists, right? Anyway, to continue. Ironically, I have trouble with the king when it comes to control. So when it comes to the big picture of my life, I don't have a grand vision that I'm set on for my life. I'm insecure about that. Some people want to climb a corporate ladder or get the next certification, etc. And that's a clear target to aim at, which is great, and I envy that. But I can see myself doing all kinds of things in life and don't really feel proportionally a strong impulse to connect with either one of those outcomes just yet. I do know that I want kids someday. That's like the one thing, but I'm 37. It's 2022. There are certain generational things, and the stars may not align for that. I can just my only preparation is being the best guy that I can be. But beyond that, it's kind of out of my control. Who says yes? So we'll see. I can only plan on what I can control, and I can't control whether people, whether the stars align for a romantic commitment or not. It's out of my control, so I can't make plans, basically. All I can do is better my own life, to be more secure and set up for the future. It's the best I can do. And yeah, again, like I have in my notes here, and the king's enemy is chaos. Speaking of chaos right there. And not having a long-term vision for where I want to end up creates distortions and dead ends in my life. Kierkegaard said, one has to live life forwards while it can only be understood backwards. If I found a vision for life I could commit to and rely upon, that would be the most important thing to happen for me. That would realign all my priorities. My lifestyle, my habits would change, etc. It's this aspect that I lack right now. I only have an impulse when it comes to short-term or medium-term or some long-term projects and circumstances, but I think this is my possession by the weakling Shadow King, in my estimation. It could be that I'm telling myself that I'm accomplishing and optimizing my projects means that I have an ordered life, but perhaps real order is only achieved when one has a real long-term vision that they're aiming at. So that's the best I got. It's a start, anyway. Moving on to the warrior, and this is probably my most shadow-possessed archetype, but I want to start out with the positives. Warriors are about fidelity and loyalty, and in this regard, I'm fanatical. I'm a dependable friend, and I have an immense impulse to help and support my crew. I also have eliminated anyone in my life who I can't have an honest, intimate relationship with, in that we can freely speak each other's minds and not be judged. I'm very blessed in this regard. I know a lot of great people, and I feel I can be honest with all of them and vice versa. We can really be seen by one another. Also, adding to what I mentioned in The King, I actually don't mind hard work. I only don't like hard work if I feel the results are inefficient. But once I have a system, I pour everything I have into it, like the scripts and research for this channel. Once I come up with the material for a season, I can execute pretty well. Of course, there's more nuance than that, but having the plan and the system is the catalyst which energizes me for the project. And this is what Moore and Gillette meant by the warrior serving the transcendent other, aka the plan, aka the system. In my opinion, actually, I would say I'm especially sensitive to this. It's very hard for me to work and spend energy on something that I don't believe in or I'm not physically connected to. When your own king is your transcendental other and you're not projecting that onto another, you're in a good spot. And I think I have that covered, fortunately. Where I struggle with the warrior is boundary enforcement, not boundary definitions. This is what I hinted at before when I was speaking about the king. The king declares the boundaries, but he doesn't enforce them. That's the warrior. My loyalty to my friends can sometimes backfire. There have been people that have treated me poorly, and I've thought, they're my friends, and nobody's perfect, so I just need to have the strength to endure this. Or they keep asking me to do things, and friends help each other, right? So I should always help whenever a friend asks, right? That's what friends do. I'm filled with beliefs like that, which don't take my own preferences into consideration, and it's taken me a long time to realize how ill-treated how much ill treatment I've enabled and unintentionally encouraged among the people around me. And it's funny, I think that if anyone messes with me, I'm ready, you know? But the only people who have ever hurt me were people that I labeled as a friend or lover or whatever. And that label was like a camouflage. And I can't deal with something I can't see. And this is part of the sadomasochism of the Shadow Warrior. Moore says that the masochist has a wound in the exact shape of the sadist's sword. And this manifests in what I just described. I may know I'm being exploited, but I let it happen. Let me know in the comments if you can identify with that. I have bursts of warrior energy in my life, and I can see why the origin of religion may have been originated with the warrior archetype. When you know the mission, something is very clear to you. You're ready to execute. You're basically unstoppable, and that fills you with mana, puts you in a sort of trance. It's like the flow state, and that's like my experience. It's like when you do that lean in a video game, you know, you're in that mode. You can feel the mission in your eyeballs, you know, and it's a nice dopamine hit, and that's the power of the submission to the transcendent other. People think that submission means surrender. Far from it. Your ego has submitted to the mission, and your whole psyche assumes the ideal formation to get the mission accomplished. This is why my favorite superhero, quote unquote, is Spawn, because he has the power to manifest whatever he's thinking of with the cape and all that. Anyway. Yeah, there's a question about how to get into these states as often as possible. And the answer is to find a worthy transcendental other and completely submit and surrender to it. Find something that you completely believe in and just surrender yourself to the ideal. Simple, but not easy. So now to the magician. The magician may be the most actualized for me. If we recall from our episode on the magician, Moore called its idealized form the shaman, based on the anthropological literature. The shaman knows the difference between knowledge itself and knowledge which benefits the tribe. Basically, ivory tower versus actual wisdom. And I believe I have a clear awareness of this distinction, having gone into the belly of the whale of academic philosophy and then have it spit me back out, basically, or evacuating it with my own for my own volition. It was also mentioned that the shaman will have more of a broad jack of all trades type of knowledge rather than being a top expert in one single field. And I think I've made that abundantly clear on like all my videos: electronic music, stand-up, YouTube channel, coding, learning Unity, pixel art. I played the violin, tons of books on various subjects, from astrophysics to permaculture to economics. I think I've done quite a bit. I know a little bit about everything, you know? Yeah. So, I recently shout out to Resonant Arc, the YouTube channel. They're doing like a serious documentary series style on various epic, like transformative games, like Final Fantasy or Metal Gear Solid. And I just listened to their Metal Gear Solid series, and now I like really want to learn CQC, close quarters combat. It's really cool in that game, and yeah, it seems interesting. I want to learn how to make origami. I'm interested in permaculture technology, storytelling, and all that. So I'll never be bored for too long. And so I feel a strong affiliation with this archetype. And my magician is like my inner idea guy and drags my poor warrior around. The warrior is always like, wait, we're doing what now? At first, but then he always gets into it. They have a good relationship, but I'd say my warrior always starts a new project with some skepticism. Basically, I'm saying it can take me a bit to get into something, but once I get it, it's hard to stop me from working on it. I would also say that I have a contempt for trivia. To me, trivia is trivial. Trivia being just random facts, and some people love it. Oh, you know a lot of trivia. You must be smart. No, you just know you're remembering a lot of facts. But to me, it takes up valuable real estate in my brain. Real estate that is reserved for holding knowledge related to a project that I'm working on in my life. Now, I do like trivia as a basis for joke writing. I use like a random fact for the setup of a joke, and then I challenge myself to come up with a punchline based on the random fact. I'll be starting a comedy channel soon, by the way. This holiday 2022, winter 2023, maybe. We'll see. And the less funnier the punchline is, the easier it is for me to come up. Sorry, the less funny the setup is, the easier it is for me to come up with a punchline. There's nothing more challenging than a funny setup, because the laugh is supposed to come at the end, you're not supposed to already be laughing. You know, there are exceptions to that, but that's a topic for a different video. So yeah, I'll be curious to see how my magician develops as I grow older. Now, having an understanding and respect for the lack of sacred space in modern culture and the desperate need for informed and genuine ritual elders, I look forward to a time where I can lead and initiate others in some way. That could be one impetus for my desire to have children. If that doesn't happen, then there are other ways to channel this as well. We'll just have to see. So now we come to the lover. I'm leaning on my notes more, if you haven't noticed, since we're running out of time. I don't want to forget anything, and I wanted to be clear with getting my thoughts onto paper. So, yeah. Now we come to the lover, and this is a radioactive one for me. The lover is a source of tremendous joy for me, but it often bleeds over into indulgence. On the one hand, the lover gets me in, lets me enjoy nature. I just love walking, listening to an audiobook, music, or podcast, or whatever. And the older I get, the more nature has a grip on me aesthetically. I have found like I mentioned this in a previous video, like, who would ever want to go fishing? You just go somewhere and do nothing. And now I'm like, wait a minute. When you go fishing, you do nothing? That sounds great, you know? So I have this desire has awakened in me to go learn how to fish. And there's like a Louisiana boat tour that I'm kind of interested in. So we'll see one day. Donation link down below. So yeah, I just like letting the environment wash over me. I just like to drink it in more and more. And I'm very close to the point where I could spend an entire day staring out into the distance and just feel content. I have a bit about that, about rocking chairs, that I should start a rocking chair ASMR channel. Comment down below if you'd like to see that happen. So I say, however, this impulse is radioactive because sometimes I feel like I'm dancing on the edge of indolence. All of those projects and interests I've mentioned above, all of it is dancing on a cliff's edge. I have to consistently make an effort to steer myself away from indolence and continue working on stuff because the lover relentlessly draws me towards comfort. As a matter of fact, my shadow lover is the addict, and my cope is food. I tell myself as long as I'm accomplishing something, I can eat what I want, meaning that it's like taking the energy I need, it's like intaking the energy I need to accomplish a task. And it's caused me to be overweight. I'm not obese, but I'm skinny fat. It's something I really need to work on. I'm 37, so it's only going to get more difficult. Getting physically healthy and in shape is a project I should pour more effort into. But it's hard to keep the weight off and like start a business and start all these new projects, you know? Life is multidimensional and it's hard to balance all the priorities because of the opportunity cost. If you're working out, I'm not working on my YouTube channel or fill in whatever projects I've already mentioned above. I'm not writing jokes. I'm not doing a comedy channel. I'm not working on my music. I'm not working on my branding. You know, if I have to go work out, it's taking away from that. On the other hand, my health could be deteriorating. So, you know, it's very difficult, and I'm lacking some king energy there about like how to fit all this in properly. All this being said, though, I consider myself lucky that I'm not suffering from the other side of the shadow lover, the impotent. Excuse me. The impotent who lack a zest for life. Apparently, this is a much more common thing. My zest for life is overwhelming, and in being medicated by food, I am ridiculously in love with life and all of its possibilities and potentials. It's hard for me to imagine the world being gray and inert and lifeless, but I actually think, from what I've heard, that, yeah, that's more common. I'm only 37, though, so this affliction may be waiting for me in the future as my other projects run its course, so we'll see. Robert Bly says that if a man isn't getting into trouble in some way, there's something wrong. This is a great aphorism for the lover who enjoys breaching boundaries. Remember the outlaw lover quality we talked about in the previous episode on the lover. And I take this to heart, and I realize I need to be getting into more trouble. I'm kind of a good boy. So yeah, made it in time. Wow. Looking at my timer, it's a cruel taskmaster, the timer. But yeah, I hope that was valuable. That was a ton of notes that I took, and I read really quickly. So I appreciate your patience. I just, thoughts become clear. I wanted the thoughts to become crystallized, so I didn't have to think on the spot and ramble. I wanted to make sure I got through all the archetypes and the shadow possessions and all that. So I hope that you'll try this and let me know how it goes in the comments below, how it might have benefited you to do. It's kind of like taking a psychological budget of things, like what am I spending time on, you know, in terms of where my thoughts are dwelling and all that. And now we're at the end. This is the last episode that's not just a wrap up of the series, which will be the next in this vein. But I really, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate y'all sticking with this, and hope you'll pass on the knowledge to the people in your life, and hope y'all will become individuated yourselves, and yeah. Next season, we'll be talking about Jean Boleyn. Stay tuned. So take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.